Are you ready? 3, 2, 1, let's go, 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 go. You're now tuned into the most unpredictable podcast on the World Wide Web. It's about to shut it. Hosted by Karen Hall. Hey! You are locked in. You know what it is. Pull up a glass of wine, ladies. Let the Henny flow, fellas. And get ready to turn the fucking up to lift. It's Karen Hill live on Say It Loud Radio on your favorite internet platform, streaming live.
It is another episode of Say It Loud with your favorite GILF and podcaster, Karen L. And today in my hot seat is Orlando Roy. I think you all know who he is, but if you don't, where the hell have you been? Orlando, what's up? Thank you for joining us on Say It Loud.
Hey, what's going on, love? I'm happy to be back once again.
Oh my God, I'm so happy to have you. Well, I was telling Orlando behind the scenes that I invited him because he has a new podcast that just dropped recently. And I thought, like, we're better than to talk about it, be about it, and all that good stuff than here, obviously, on Say It Loud podcast. So can you quickly, like, tell everybody who you are and then get into the name of your podcast and the vision behind it?
Yeah, I am Orlando, aka Horlando, aka the Big Dick Bad Bitch, aka Thick Dick McNick, aka Double Chin Dick Daddy. I am the CEO of Ho, and I am backpacking the circumcised Kraken. And I wanted to start this podcast with my co-host / therapist because I want to show people what it's like to not only be in therapy, but to get the reaction and expertise right then and there from a therapist. And I also took like my therapy episode, I also took my therapy episodes with my therapist and made podcast episodes about them so we can go and deep dive and talk about not only therapy, but also different types of therapy, healing, and wellness. So, yeah.
Wow, that's such a vulnerable space, Orlando, to be in. Because, like, first of all, let's talk about it. It's gonna get deep real quick. Like there's a lot of negative, energy, right, around particularly people of color going to therapy, especially for men. And you're doing that in such a public space, and that takes a lot of vulnerability to do that. Was that intentional?
I don't know if not necessarily intentional. It was intentional in the sense of I already speak about. Oh, actually, no. I was intentional in the sense of I actually hate talk therapy. It's one of the therapies that I don't really feel the most connected to or feel like it's the most helpful for me. And the reason was because I didn't want to talk about something that made me sad or down when I was maybe having a good day. And one of the things that I learned just like through this experience and this podcast is therapy can be whatever you want it to be. Healing could be whatever you want it to be, and wellness could be whatever you want it to be, as long as it's achieving the goal that you're looking for and bettering yourself. And because talk therapy was one that I didn't really like, is the one I chose because I wanted to challenge myself to use this tool to become better, and it actually has been helping. And it wasn't really vulnerable or too much for me because I already talk about these stories like openly. I'm an open book already. I talk about my mental state and things like that. But I came to realize that not everybody is as open and vocal like I am, especially Black people, especially Black men. So now that I can show people like, hey, this is what your therapy, wellness, and healing can be. This is what it looks like. And also these are the expert advice that you will be getting from someone right here in podcast form. So you can see what it's like to be in therapy, see what it's like to get feedback from therapy, and hopefully that'll encourage people to not feel as scared or feel as taboo about therapy, and to go even further and try to show people that there are different types of therapy is another avenue that I'm excited to go down. So yeah, it's challenging in the sense that it's talk therapy, but it's only challenging because that's the one I don't really feel to like connected to.
Right. So
But I
it's pushing
do,
you out of your comfort zone.
Yeah, exactly. But I do enjoy it because it is challenging, and challenging myself is the one thing that's always helped me to be a better me.
You know what I love about all of this is that you are so many people that do go to therapy, they wait till somebody else tells them and they don't feel like they're in control. And listening to you sounds like you're navigating this and you're in control of what it is that you need versus someone telling you what it is that you need. When did you feel like, all right, this is what I'm going to do. I need to go to therapy. And you know what? I'm going to just make it so that everybody could do this with me. Like people could join me in this experience.
Yeah, it started because I didn't have an answer for what I was going through. I was going through a very severe depression, and because I've been pretty much vocal about when I am in a depression, things that I go through. I wanted to show people that you don't necessarily need a reason. Even
Mhm.
though I had a reason, you don't necessarily need a reason. You can just go, or you don't need somebody else to give you a reason to go. You can just go on your own. And it's when I couldn't answer my own questions to like what was going on with me, like emotionally and mentally, because I was in such this like deep depression. And also, I don't want people to get to that point before they go to therapy. So once, even though I got that answer, because I'm always thinking, figuring things out, like therapizing and stuff myself. So when I finally got to this point where I just couldn't understand, it sent me to therapy. But I don't want people to get to that point before they go see somebody for help. Or they could just go and make their therapy sessions whatever they want. They can go talk about sports,
Right.
talk about the happy moments throughout the day. And just people seeing that somebody isn't scared to let you in about what's happening in this very, very personal space, which is like
Mhm.
talk therapy and actually physically expressing what's going on with you. I want people to know that it's not a scary place and it's not a taboo place. And I think hopefully two things happen. One, you can hear what it's like for somebody to be transparent and you can probably relate and get advice. And two, you can go without feeling like there's a reason or any fear behind it.
I love that. I love that because most people are like, but I need something has to happen to me for me to
Yeah.
realize that I need help or I'm
Yeah.
struggling with something. And I tell people all the time, like, if your foot hurts, you go to a foot doctor. If your heart hurts, you go to a cardiologist. If your soul is hurting, why are you not like looking about that? Like taking
Exactly.
that seriously too.
And even when those things aren't hurting, you still go for a checkup.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Um, let's have the conversation about Black men in therapy and people of color in therapy and all of this like negative connotation that comes around it. Because I think obviously, you know, in some places we're taught like you don't say anything, you don't do anything, you keep that to yourself. That doesn't go outside the house. We're not talking about certain things. And how do you feel like that, particularly for men?
How do I feel about that, particularly for men?
Yeah, for men and them just being able to, you know, have conversations about going to therapy, like
Um,
with they boys, just being like, you know what, I have to go because there's so many places where they tell you, you know, where you don't have that outlet, where you don't have that opportunity, where it's not supported.
Right, I got you. I think it's beautiful that now people are realizing how harmful that rhetoric is, and they're taking themselves to therapy. I think it's beautiful that we are now, as a collective and a culture, accepting therapy as something that's more so helpful than this dark thing that we don't talk about or dark road that we don't go down. I think we are ready to make the next step in realizing that there's more to your wellness, your therapy, and your healing than just only talk therapy. So it's like, okay,
Right.
we broke through. We broke a bunch of generational curses. We broke through. We're going to therapy. Not only did the Black women go to therapy, but now the Black men are going to therapy without fear or emasculating or anything like that. Now it's time to expand on this foundation. It's time to show you that there is animal therapy, there is hypnotherapy, there are spiritual ways that you can go about bettering yourself. I feel like now we're at this point, and it is beautiful that we have talk therapy, but I want us to realize that that's not the only option. And the one thing that Black people need that we haven't had for such a long time is options.
Right. Right.
Mhm.
But I think before we get to options, we need conversations and education, and that's kind of like why you're here, and that's why you have public power, and probably why your podcast is going to do what it does for someone, right?
Yeah,
And be able to put it in spaces where they can don't feel uncomfortable and see that this is the norm versus not, you know.
yeah,
So how
and
has this process?
point. I was gonna say that that's a good point that you bring that up because damn, I just had it in my head. That was a good brought that up because I also want people to see that like I'm not obviously I'm not the expert. I don't think I could be an expert in going to therapy, but even with conversations with my homeboys that might not be in therapy, the tools that I've gotten from my therapist and expert advice that I've gotten from my therapist, I'm able to now apply those tools to my friends' relationships, to my
Mhm.
friends' lifestyle, to family lifestyle, whoever, even strangers when I'm just having conversations with them and I'm realizing that doing this project and this podcast, it's resonating very easily with me, just having it recorded, and then I also like do the editing and I'm promoting and stuff like that to social media, so constantly hearing it over and over, all these tools and things that I'm getting from my therapist is resonating in me. All these tools that I'm getting and conversations that I'm having just from doing the podcast is resonating with me, and now I'm able to go out and teach other people or help other people within their space and their realm without being an expert. So you can also
Yeah,
help people just as the listener as well.
I like that. We
Yeah.
need to listen more with more intent. Um, in going through this process so far, what has been like the pivotal moment for you?
Pivotal moment for me has been accepting, I guess, my dark childhood, but
Mhm.
accepting that it was a dark childhood. A lot of times I would like write off my childhood, just like it was traumatic. I don't really indulge in it because I don't really have a lot of good experiences. And by the time my good experiences came about, that's like what I really stuck to and remember. And a conversation within doing the podcast I had was I forgot my childhood and I couldn't
Oh,
remember certain things unless a traumatic experience was around that time. And I'll go, oh, I
mhm.
remember that when that happened as a kid and it was so bad for me. And when I started to think about like good moments, I would have a struggle. And when I
Right.
finally maybe thought of a good moment, I just automatically thought of like a bad moment that was like so close within that time frame. So being able to sit and realizing like, wow, you really have a dark this dark childhood that you don't indulge in, and you haven't indulged in so long that you've forgotten about it. So
Mhm.
the challenging part has been to go back into like this my life as a kid and trying to remember that, and also speaking to myself, this inner child, and just comforting and being there for myself and healing that part of me.
That's dope. That's dope that
Yeah.
you could do that on the other side of it and take it all in, because that's a lot of it takes a lot of work. I actually was listening to a clip that you said, and it resonated with me because you're like, I think I outgrown my parents.
Oh,
And
I'm not compatible with my parents.
and
Yeah.
it stuck with me because I started to think about things in my own life, and I was like, like, how do I unpack this? How do I dissect this? Not in a negative way, but just understanding who I am and the time period we're in, and who they are and the time period that they're in, and kind of understanding our relationship. I was like, oh, that's interesting. I never heard anybody say that.
Mhm. Yeah, it's been really interesting also just putting that thought and that sentence to like reality.
Hmm.
It's something that I've felt for a while. Even as a kid, I would have those feelings from time to time. But when I'm finally getting to sit down and like have multiple conversations solely about that, I came to realize that my synergy with my parents just wasn't there like it was with other people that I would see as like parental figures, or
Right.
even I would see other friends or kids with their parents. So
Hmm.
so just remembering like how I was brought up and how I was treated from my parents, I came And also thinking about how adults themselves would say like they don't really feel a connection with their kid.
Mhm.
Their kid is like
Yeah.
newborn or whatever age, they don't feel a connection to their kid. But it's kind of hard to put that on a child. Um,
Where are your parents from?
Jamaica.
Same. That's why I
Yeah,
know exactly what you're talking about.
I was born in
That's,
Jamaica. Yeah, no. Yeah, I was also
I
born in
didn't know
Jamaica.
that.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
it's just
I think
hard to like.
I have these really harsh conversations with my parents about that because
Mm,
I told them I think it's a cultural thing, because I see it with so many families where it's just kind of the nature is there. Like you can eat and you have a roof over your head.
yeah,
And your Maslow hierarchy of needs are there, right? There's water and clothes, but the nurture is not there. The nature is there, right? The nature part of like you have to eat, you have to take a bath, you have to take a shower. That's all there. But the nurturing part is not
it's,
there. And so when I thought about where you were from, because I watch you cook on Instagram, and I thought about my own family, I was like, I see that and I feel that because I know exactly what it is that you're talking about. And when I tell them, I think they're totally like, they're like, what are you talking about?
yeah, and I don't think parents like really realize it because we just see we feel like, well, not we, well, I'm a parent now, but I think parents
Yeah,
felt like, I didn't have much, so now that I'm giving you what I barely had, then you should be grateful. And it's like that's not how love works.
right,
um and on top of that, my parents more so prioritize like the shit that they were dealing with than me as
right.
their son. So that's why I never feel
Yes,
like we can have like a connection because I was never their primary thought. So
right.
I realized like, wow, I'm not compatible with her. And even in my adulthood, I started to see like the things that we liked weren't the same. Like I didn't feel the need to like sit down and have like long discussions with my parents because I didn't feel like our energy was the same or on the same,
Yeah,
our mindset on the same wavelength. So I was like, why should I as a child feel like this automatic compatibility with you as an adult when it was your
right.
choice to bring me into this world?
Right. You had me. um, I totally understand that. And then as an adult mom who has kind of lived through some of those experiences, I then had to, and I'm also in therapy, I then
Mm,
had to look at my relationships with my own children
yeah,
and then be like, okay, am I giving the same thing? Or am I gonna consciously make a decision to not do what I was taught, but change that narrative? And that had to be like that was pivotal too, because it's like we tend to just do what we know. And then
yeah,
it's like, oh damn, well, you taught me the wrong thing. So now I have to go unlearn that. I gotta go unlearn that and then
yeah,
redo it the way that I need to do it so that I'm parenting my children differently. And
exactly. And
that
just that awareness is what's like so helpful because once I was aware
yeah,
that I'm not compatible with my parents, it's like, okay, I'm not gonna force this relationship. I'm not gonna
right.
force this connection. And therapy has helped me a lot with like just being aware of shit that's like around you or what's
Yeah.
going on and being able to connect it to different things just from like my childhood has been a way to help me heal my childhood. So just
Yeah.
being aware of like how my parents were and being a better parent right now has and my daughter and like this family dynamic has helped me have better experiences with a child, and I can like
Mhm.
connect them to what I want to do as a child myself and make
Mhm.
better memories connected to childhood.
Right. Right.
That's
Right.
cool.
But that's a lot of work. That's a lot of reflection. That's a lot of that, that takes sometimes years for people to unpack. So
Yeah,
that's a lot of
and I was
work
able,
and that's a lot of reflection.
facts, and I was able to do that in what 6 episodes. So
So
I
is
can only
your
imagine what's gonna happen when this shit reaches like hundreds and 200 episodes and stuff like that. But just in we just started, so in the 2 months that we've recorded and had guests on and conversations, it's like wow, I'm learning a lot just so far,
yeah,
and I can't wait to. I actually look forward to having more talk sessions just so I can put out more episodes to help more people.
yeah. But in doing that, you're helping yourself too,
Exactly.
So I feel like that's dope. Was there any apprehension about doing this? Like, did you ever feel nervous or scared?
My only apprehension was when my conversations had to include like other people and how
Hmm.
deep I can go when the conversation does include other people. But I realized that most of whatever I had to speak about was only me. I don't really I actually don't, if I could think of any, have any traumas that connect to anybody else other than like my immediate family, and everything else is
Yeah.
just really figuring shit out. But other than that, I can't. I was already an open book. I was
Right.
already willing to talk about anything, so apprehension wasn't really there.
It was never an issue.
Yeah, I did hesitate for a quick second and wondered, like, is it even worth doing? Because I didn't know if people, I didn't know, and I didn't know if people would feel a connection to even want to listen to something like this. But then my girlfriend slapped the shit out of me and told me you can put I podcast. So the podcast is out now.
Yeah. Yeah. And how's the feedback been?
Feedback's been good. Feedback's been great. Feedback has been amazing. Even live recording the podcast, the staff or whoever would be there would be like, "Wow, do I need to talk to somebody? Do I need to go
Yeah.
talk to my
Yeah.
parents or
It's
talk to
moving.
others or something?" Yeah, so it's really when you have like those in-person reactions that like will
Hmm.
justify it for you. When people start commenting on posts and clips and stuff like that, that's when it like justifies it for me and like encourages me to like want to keep going and wanting more people to hear this.
Yeah, I think what you're doing is dope. I think that yes, I will reaffirm you right now that yeah, like this is like groundbreaking in some ways because not a lot of people focus on this. So it's a niche market and people listen because they want to listen, but I think they're listening because they're also curious.
Yeah,
Right? They're
and
curious about you as a person, but they're also curious about themselves in some ways. Clearly, you know the people are curious about you as a person. You're like a whole, like a whole movement by yourself. So,
yeah, man,
um, so how is that? How is life and how's business and how's work and all the amazing other things that you do?
life is pretty unique. I think that's the best way that I can explain it. Life is pretty
Yeah.
unique. Switching coast to go from like New York to LA has been it's been, I want to say challenging, but not really challenging, but kind of
Yeah.
challenging. But it's been
Yeah.
fun challenging. Just
Yeah.
having new experiences, finding out how I'm gonna navigate this new world. For me, it's like so much different because I was born in Jamaica and I came to like Brooklyn when I was like 4 years old. So it's like all I've known.
Hmm.
Uh, but it's it's interesting.
You should be very proud of yourself because I've been watching your story and I'm like, no, this mofo didn't just pick up and just leave everything. And then I'm like, I wish I could do that. Like I'm living vicariously through you. Like I wish I could just quit my teaching job and move to the warm weather and just be happy. Like and live my life dream. Like, it takes a very brave person to do that. And like
Yeah,
just step out on faith and like I got this.
fuck it. Yeah, I've come to realize that I just do things that aren't like the average, or
Yes.
I'll make decisions that aren't like the average person would probably have to second guess or third guess or fourth guess about. And it's I guess it's because it's lack of fear, and also confidence like within myself.
Hmm.
And those moments where I might have doubt or fear, I have people around me that's gonna check me and remind me who I am. So me even making this like big change in life, I had a support system around me that made me comfortable in making these like hard decisions. And that's another thing that I was happy about because I found people that I was compatible with. Uh,
Hmm.
and I guess that kind of gave me a little bit of arrogance when it came to not starting therapy, because I always felt like I surrounded myself with or put myself in a space where I was able to heal myself or do for
Right.
myself or okay. And when it gets to the point where nothing that you're doing works, then it's time to really seek help. And when I was out here, it was scary because my girlfriend at the time, she dipped off for like a month because she does retreats. So I'm here by myself in this city that I've never even lived in, and it's just me and my thoughts,
Right.
and I got to sit
Right.
there and
You
like
can be your
clear it
own
out.
worst enemy sometimes.
Yes, but one thing that made me confident was knowing that after I do get comfortable and adjusted, everything is gonna be okay.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm
You gotta
hoping
you
that,
gotta sprinkle a little bit on all of us because we all need a little bit of that.
and that's what I'm hoping for with this podcast, that people would tell me, like, you're very confident and you're very free, and then, you just do what you want, and I want people to see that, well, you can do it too. um
Right.
I don't think that I'm special. I think that I'm just
Yeah.
like everybody else, and if I'm able to do it, then you're able to do it too.
Yeah.
So
That is very, very true. So Orlando, are we gonna keep
Mhm.
this name Orlando and keep experimenting with the Orlando brand?
The Orlando branded name isn't of my choosing. It's a choosing. It was
Yeah.
it was given to me from the people. So the people have awarded me Orlando. So I
Yeah.
can't really escape it. It's what the people want, and if that's what the people decide to call me, I can't stop them. But it's not. They're not calling me that because it's a brand or it's a thing I do. It's literally who I am. I've been like
Mm.
this for a very, very long time. So just being myself, yeah, I'm keeping Orlando
I, gue-
because
I
that's a part
guess. I,
of
I
but
guess.
but that's the other part of the podcast, is showing people that the journey down therapy, wellness, and healing is mixed with affection, fuck, what was it? Affection, sensuality, and something else. I got a podcast long enough for me to start remembering. It's
So
showing
what
that
does
it's
that
showing
look
that
like?
it for me, sex and sexuality and sensuality and all the things under it were always a healing space for me. And I want people to realize, at least me, my personal thing was having people realize that sensuality, affection, intimacy, sensuality, affection,
Mhm.
and intimacy are strong parts of your journey down wellness, therapy, and healing. And I think once you get
Making so
into
much
that,
sense to me now.
yeah, once you get into like that part of that softness or that a feminine side, it also strengthens your masculine. Or you can get into like the masculine side and still be like sensual and stuff like that. But there are parts of us that I feel like are stripped away or made taboo, and those are the parts that are very helpful to us. Let's even go into sensuality and like pleasure.
Mhm.
Understanding your own pleasure also helps people to understand like how to please you.
Right.
So now you have better interactions and better communication and better oneness with people around you because you know how to please yourself, which can also be applied to just how people treat you and how you treat yourself.
Right.
So there's just this that's just like one part of it, or how I viewed it. And pleasure doesn't always have to mean sex or intercourse. It could
Right.
mean so many different things, how people compliment you, how people view you, but it can start on how you view yourself and how you letting people know how to view you. That's another part of healing.
Right.
So that is many ways that it can you can go about it, and I can't wait for people to find all those ways and for me to express those ways to people. But this is literally a podcast about talking about my traumas and my experiences so everybody else can have some type of relatability and some type of healing, wellness, and therapy from it.
I love it. I love it. I'm here for it. I'm here. I'm listening. I'm listening. So where do you see yourself in 5 years? That was one of my questions.
Um, where do I see myself in 5 years? I would like, and this is something that I've wanted to do for a while. I would like to just have a space, whether it's like a retreat or a travel group or something, where I can get people to go out the country and we could just be in our own private space, and it could be all about healing and wellness, whatever that may look like for you, especially for men. And I know it's something that's it's not the first thing that's done, but if I can get people around this age group and this time frame to actually be a part of this, just healing men alone is going to be make like the biggest difference in the household.
Right.
um healing men and healing couples, and
Hmm.
especially black couples and black people and people of color, is is my vision and is the goal. Growing the podcast and getting people into a space to heal.
Yeah, I think that's really important because we don't realize how important our personal healing is
Yeah.
when, and then we try to be with somebody else.
Hmm.
And that's going to be my next question for you, like, because I talk about it a lot on my show. It's like everybody's like, I want peace, I want peace, and it's like, but if you're not at peace, how are you going to be your best self for somebody else? So my next question is, how in this process of going through therapy and being reflective, has it helped you kind of understand yourself better, to know what to do or to do differently in this relationship that you're in now?
Know myself better. I wouldn't necessarily say it's helped me know myself better. I'm very, very, and I only say that because I'm very in tune with myself,
Yeah.
but it has given me tools and understanding of how people are,
Hmm.
and understanding a little bit more why my girlfriend has like certain reactions just based on like definitions or like certain things that my therapist has told me.
Hmm.
I've been able to navigate other people's feelings a bit better. So I don't
Interesting.
it hasn't necessarily helped me to understand myself, but it's helped me understand other people a little better and how to navigate them. Um I feel like if I were to say it's helped me with myself, maybe it's more so I'm able to make a connection to why I might have certain reactions.
Hmm.
Uh or maybe just me being more impatient, or actually me being aware of when I react to certain things just naturally or innately.
Right.
If I were to answer that, that's how, yeah, yeah, that's how it's been helpful.
That's interesting. So you've
Mhm.
learned how what your triggers are, your why you react the way you react.
Yeah, just right off the back, and
Yeah.
just right off the back reacting like that because I've been in therapy or and doing a podcast. I've been able to stop myself quicker than go down like this road of emotions on why this happened, why happened. Now I'm like, oh wait, okay, yeah, I understand that. I know why. Let me apply it this way, and then I can come to a healthier solution. Now, I may have come to a healthier solution before, but now I have a better understanding or
Mhm.
gotten to that solution quicker than I would have before.
Right. Very true. Very true. So my next question is the podcast just going to go on and all these sessions, or is it like specific topics within, like when we're listening? How is that going to be? Like for as a listener, from a listener perspective.
So the outline. The simplest way to put it is we put out 4 episodes a month, which is 1 episode a week, and it's basically my therapy session, and then I do a solo episode based on however I want to do it. So you're getting a it's a therapy session 1 week. Second week you're getting a solo episode from me from the point of view of somebody in therapy. Then we do
Mhm.
another session, which is my therapy session again, and then my therapist co/co-host, he does his podcast, his episode solo based on the therapist point of view, and he has guests on, I have guests on. So it's a way
Oh,
to
nice.
just make things more interesting, mix it up, but also have people uh just continued interest and knowing like,
Yeah.
hey, oh, he's about to talk about some shit that happened. Maybe I could relate. And then next up, wow, I'm also getting a podcast episode about the shit that we've talked about and it being the main topic. We can expand on it. And then, oh shit, we're also getting another episode from a professional, not one professional's point of view, but also multiple professionals' point of view.
Right.
So
I like it because there's multiple perspectives.
exactly. And that was the other part. I don't want people to feel like, oh, I'm only listening to a podcast where I'm getting the point of view of people in therapy. And I'm listening to a podcast and all I'm hearing is expert analysis, expert review, expert advice. I want
Yeah.
people to get both. I want people to get everything and realize that there are multiple ways to go down like this road of healing. And I'm saying healing a lot because that's really the main point of doing this
Mhm.
right now is to help as much people heal, garner a crowd or an audience of people that that this platform can help as much as possible. And then after that, the 5-year plan, 2-year plan, and 3-year plan comes in of like just creating more spaces so people can indulge in and be better themselves.
I love it. I'm so excited for you. I'm so happy for you. I feel like this is such productive work in so many different ways and it's
Yeah.
valuable to so many people in different ways. I really hope that they take this and use it as a vehicle for the people that are listening and are like, you know what, I don't know what to do. This is somewhere to start, to at least listen, to understand, to be in a comfortable space.
Yeah. Somewhere to
Um yeah, because sometimes you need somewhere to start. Sometimes you're like, I don't know how. That's everybody's excuse for everything. I don't know how, right? And so
yeah.
now you have the same people that you would listen to, because I think that too is really important. Orlando, it's one thing for usually people telling you go to therapy and you're looking at them like you look like a doctor or you look like somebody who's talking down to me and telling me what to do. And I think it's really important for people to see people that look like them, that are in their age group, that go through the same things that they go through, having these kinds of conversations, right? And it not just being like some old, wrinkle man telling you, well, and it's just like, no, it needs to be understand it that it's in your own community, right? Your community of friends, your community of family, your community of people, our age group, and just understand that like you're not the only person who might be feeling these things. Let's talk about it.
Let's talk about it.
Let's talk about it. So where can everybody find you?
You can find me everywhere at WH_ Orlando Roy. You can find the podcast everywhere at Menage Mind, MENAGEAMIND. And you can also follow my co-host / therapist / expert at Talk to Mac. Yeah, it's Talk to Mac _ therapist. And you can hear us talk about wellness, healing, but it also be entertaining and sexually fun. That's the other part of it. I think one of the things that I actually was hesitant about or worried about when I was first starting was finding a way to make people feel like, hey, healing is fun. Healing
Right.
is sexy. Like you can have a great time while traumatized and becoming a better person. Like it doesn't have to be this sad, depressing state, or I don't want you to listen
You're crying
to
all the time.
Yeah, I don't want you to listen to a podcast and feel like, all right, time to heal. Let me mentally prepare because there might be some deep shit coming out. Like I talk about how, I paid attention to sex for so long because it was a healing space for me, and now I've become perfect at sex. Just different ways that you can also feel like, hey, I have this dark ass past, but right now it's got me to a lit ass space.
Right.
And it's different for everyone. And we can have
that's
that
pretty
experience.
amazing.
Yeah.
That you can navigate it that way and that it works out for you now and you understand, And then I think we should also talk about the sex too, like people using sex as healing and the different ways that does heal and the different ways that people think it might be healing them, but it's not healing them, and kind of understanding who they are in that and going through that process. I think that's really interesting as well.
Yeah, like you ever been so down and then like you get a hug from somebody and you feel so much better? That's That's
That's my whole
affection.
life.
Right?
Whole life. I'm Jamaican, remember?
Exactly.
Every year, like you were saying it, and I was like, oh my God, that makes so much sense now because I'm a very sensual person, right? And I didn't grow up in an affectionate household. But now that I'm an adult, I'm like, no, I like affection and I want affection and I want to be able to be affectionate with someone. And I gotta, practice that because I didn't have that. You
Right.
understand? So it's really interesting when we think about what those types of relationships, how they affect other things in our life, right? And how our relationships are not being nurtured or not being hugged all the time. It's so meaningful when you finally do find a partner or have sex or have intimacy with someone where you're like, oh, wow, I like this.
Yeah.
And you don't get to talk about those things because everybody else thinks it's normal.
Exactly. So yeah, listen to Menage a Mind everywhere you listen to podcasts. You can watch it on YouTube also. You could even sign up to our Patreon. We basically we batch record a lot of our episodes. So if you actually want to catch them live as soon as they come out, then you can go on our patreon.com/Menage a Mind and watch and listen and support.
I am so happy to have you. Thank you so much for sharing this journey with us. I will be listening and watching and rooting for you from the sidelines. Everybody go follow Orlando Roy. He's a whole vibe. You just got to follow him. He's a whole vibe. You won't, trust me, you will be entertained and you'll just have a good time while you're healing, right? So definitely go check him out on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, all of that good stuff. Thank you so much, Orlando, for being with us. I appreciate you.
Thank you for having me, love.
You're welcome.